In a dark, mysterious jungle, something is lurking in the shadows. Its glowing eyes and terrifying growl have sent chills through every creature that's crossed its path. But one boy, will he have the courage to face it? As the jungle closes in around him, danger rises. Will he survive, or will the darkness consume him? Stay tuned to find out what happens next. Mowgli crept through the dense jungle, his bare feet brushing against the cool earth. The night air was thick with the scent of wet leaves. The only sounds were the distant calls of night creatures. He felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Something was wrong. He paused, his heart pounding in his chest. The usual sounds of the jungle had disappeared. A heavy silence hung in the air. Mowgli's senses were on high alert. He could hear his own breath, shallow and quick. His eyes darted around, looking for the source of his unease. The shadows seemed to shift, moving in ways that didn't feel natural. He took a step forward, but the ground beneath him gave way. With a sudden jolt, he was falling, plunging into the darkness below. His body slammed against something hard. Pain shot through his side, and he gasped for air. The world spun around him. For a moment, everything was still. Mowgli lay in the cold, unable to move. His breathing was heavy and uneven. The jungle was silent once again. But this time, it was not comforting. As he slowly pushed himself up, he felt something watching him. A presence, dark and malevolent, looming just out of sight. His heart raced faster. The sound of a twig snapping underfoot made him freeze. He wasn't alone. A cold shiver ran down his spine. He turned his head, but there was nothing, only the vast, empty jungle. But then, just ahead of him, a pair of glowing eyes appeared, piercing the darkness. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of something dangerous. Mowgli's pulse quickened. He knew he needed to move, but his legs felt like stone, rooted to the ground. The eyes moved closer, and the hairs on his arms stood on end. A low growl broke the silence, and Mowgli's blood ran cold. His mind raced, searching for a way out. The jungle had never felt so hostile, so alive with menace. He could hear his own heartbeat now, echoing in his ears. The eyes were only a few steps away. Mowgli took a deep breath, gathering what little courage he had left. He took a step back, but the ground beneath him crumbled again. This time, he fell deeper, deeper into the darkness. And then, a terrible noise echoed through the jungle. A scream, primal and raw. He twisted his body in midair, landing in a heap on the cold, rocky floor below. Pain lanced through his leg, but the scream continued. He looked up, squinting through the dark, and saw nothing but the scream. It came from somewhere close. Mowgli's breath caught in his throat. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his legs betrayed him. His eyes darted around, wild with panic. Then, the glowing eyes appeared again. Only this time, they were closer. Right in front of him. A shadow moved swiftly, its shape no longer human, no longer animal. It was something else. The jungle seemed to close in around him. The trees creaked under the weight of the silence. The air, thick with dread, seemed to press against him. And the eyes, they stared deep into his soul. The jungle pressed in on Mowgli from all sides. The air was thick with an oppressive weight. His breath was ragged now, his pulse hammering in his ears. The eyes, those glowing eyes, pierced the darkness with terrifying clarity. Mowgli's heart raced faster. He had to move, but every instinct told him to freeze, to wait, to not make a sound. The shadow in front of him seemed to grow. It was no longer just a pair of eyes. It was a figure, a monstrous shape that towered over him, its form flickering and shifting like smoke. Mowgli's legs trembled, but he stood his ground. The jungle was alive, breathing with him. The trees swayed as if whispering, urging him to run, to escape, but he could not. A low growl rumbled from the figure, and Mowgli's heart skipped a beat. The growl was not from an animal, not from any creature he had ever known. It was deep, unnatural, like something from the very bowels of the earth. The eyes narrowed, the glow intensifying. Mowgli could see nothing else in the darkness. Only those eyes, piercing and hypnotic. A sudden movement. The shadow lunged forward, closing the distance between them in an instant. Mowgli's mind screamed for him to move, to escape, but his body remained frozen, locked in place by sheer terror. The figure stopped just in front of him. It was as tall as a tree, its body covered in dark, matted fur. A low hiss escaped its lips, echoing through the jungle. Mowgli's breath was shallow, his body cold with fear. The jungle had gone dead silent again, save for the growl of the creature. The moment stretched. Time seemed to stand still. He could feel the creature's presence, the weight of it bearing down on him. The air was thick with a sense of predation. It was no longer a mere animal, but something ancient, something primal, and it was waiting. Mowgli felt a sudden urge to flee, but his legs remained stiff, rooted to the earth beneath him. His hands clenched into fists, his nails biting into his palms. The creature leaned forward, its glowing eyes never leaving Mowgli's face. It sniffed the air, the sharp, guttural sound of its breath filling the space between them. Mowgli could smell it now. A foul, earthy scent, like decay mixed with rotting flesh. And then, the creature opened its mouth. Mowgli's eyes widened in horror. The mouth was massive, far too large for any animal he had ever seen. Teeth as sharp as daggers gleamed in the dim light, yellowed and stained with blood. The air around him seemed to grow colder, the breath of the creature filling his lungs with each passing second. The creature spoke then. Its voice was a low, guttural growl. Not in any language Mowgli knew. But somehow, he understood. You are lost. The words sent a jolt of fear through Mowgli. His heart skipped a beat, his mind racing to make sense of them. He wanted to speak, to demand what the creature was, why it was here, but his voice caught in his throat. The creature stepped closer, its breath hot and foul against his skin. Mowgli could feel its power, its malice, and his legs finally gave way. He fell to his knees, unable to stand in the face of this unnatural presence. The jungle is not yours. The creature's words hit him like a physical blow. It was true. He had never fully belonged to the jungle. The animals had accepted him. But he was always an outsider. A human child among beasts. Tolerated, but never truly one of them. Mowgli tried to swallow, but his throat felt dry. His chest tight. He could barely breathe under the creature's gaze. The shadow seemed to loom larger, its form shifting, undulating in the dark. A long, bony hand reached out, slowly, deliberately, and touched Mowgli's shoulder. The sensation was like ice, sending a shiver through his entire body. It was cold, unnatural. A sudden surge of panic gripped him, and he struggled to free himself from the creature's touch. You are nothing but prey. The voice was deeper now, more powerful. Mowgli's mind reeled. He had no idea how to fight this, how to survive it, but deep down, he knew he had to try. The jungle had always been his protector, his home. He could not let it fall into darkness. His hand shot out, grabbing a jagged rock from the ground. With trembling hands, he swung it toward the creature. It connected with a sickening thud. But the creature did not flinch. It did not even seem to notice. Instead, it stepped back, its eyes narrowing further. You will not survive this night. The ground beneath Mowgli's feet began to tremble. The trees groaned, and the earth cracked open. Mowgli scrambled back, his heart pounding harder than ever. The creature's form shifted again, dissolving into the darkness, vanishing into the night. But Mowgli could still feel it. Its presence lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive. The jungle had become a different place. Not a refuge, but a realm of shadows. Mowgli stood alone in the dark, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and anger. He was not the jungle, once his friend, now felt alien to Mowgli. The trees whispered in the wind, but it was not the comforting rustle of leaves he had grown up with. This was different. The jungle had turned into something darker, something hostile. It felt as though the very earth beneath him was alive, watching, waiting. Mowgli stood still, his breath shallow and fast. The creature was gone, but its presence hung heavy in the air. He could feel it, the weight of something ancient and powerful. But Mowgli knew he couldn't stand still forever. He couldn't let the jungle fall into fear. He took a step forward, then another, his feet moving silently through the underbrush. He was no longer the same boy who had wandered this jungle carefree. He had been tested, changed by the darkness he had faced. Now, he was ready. The moonlight broke through the thick canopy above, casting silver light across the jungle floor. It was as if the jungle itself was watching him, waiting for him to decide his fate. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the trees, a sharp crack of a branch breaking. Mowgli stopped. There it was again, closer this time. He wasn't alone. The jungle was alive with movement. Out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was not the dark creature he had faced earlier, but a familiar figure. Bagheera, the Black Panther. Her sleek body glided silently through the jungle, her eyes reflecting the soft moonlight. Mowgli's heart lifted at the sight of her. He had always relied on her wisdom, her strength. Bagheera's presence was a reminder of the bond he had with the jungle, with the animals who had raised him. Mowgli, you are not alone. Her voice was a soft, steady whisper, but there was strength in it, an unspoken promise. Mowgli took a deep breath. The fear that had gripped him began to fade, replaced by the quiet certainty that had always guided him. He was not just a child lost in the jungle. He was a part of it. Bagheera padded closer, her eyes never leaving his. The jungle will always test you, Mowgli. She paused, her voice steady but grave. but it also protects you. The air seemed to hum with the energy of the jungle. For a moment, Mowgli closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the night fill his senses. The distant calls of birds, the rustle of leaves, the movement of the wind through the trees. It was all still there, just as it had always been. He opened his eyes, and Bagheera was watching him intently. "It is not the jungle that is dangerous, Mowgli," she said. "It is the darkness within." Mowgli nodded slowly. He understood. The jungle, in all its mystery, was not a place of evil. It was a place of balance. A balance that had been disturbed. And now, it was up to him to restore it. With a final look at Bagheera, Mowgli stepped forward. He could feel the jungle shift around him, the trees leaning in as if watching his every move. But this time, it didn't feel suffocating. It felt welcoming. He was not an outsider. He was a part of it. The path ahead was uncertain, but Mowgli no longer feared it. He knew that whatever lay ahead, he was not alone. Not as long as the jungle stood with him. He reached the clearing, where the trees opened up to reveal the sky. Above him, the stars twinkled brightly, illuminating the vast, infinite darkness. The moonlight bathed him in its pale glow. It was as though the jungle was telling him to move forward, to embrace his destiny. And so he did. Mowgli walked into the night, the sounds of the jungle surrounding him, filling him with a strange sense of peace. He was no longer the boy who had been lost, terrified of the shadows. Now, he was the jungle's protector. The balance of the jungle had shifted, but it would remain as it had always been. Wild, free, and he, Mowgli, belonged.